Hello, I'm Zash, and welcome to episode 67 of my Senjou no Maou, or The Devil on G-String, Let's Read. Joining me, as always, is my co-reader Faith. Well, stuff is happening at a rapid pace now, and we actually kind of sort of felt bad for Gonzo, of all people. He died protecting his son. Also, we found that Usami was a bit starved for attention as a child, which led her to really practice the violin, the only thing that really got her compliments from her mother. And she was so good, she even had a CD made, which was quite a shock to Kyosuke. Anyway, Usami is returning after following some suspicious people through the night. That might have been Naito, the head of the Shin'ei group. When she gets back, I ask Usami about the situation outside.
For real? He looked like this.
She grabs the notepad I keep on my telephone stand and sketches a quick portrait. Yeah, probably him. Naito was likely quite pleased to hear that Gonzo had died. He didn't appear at the Sowa meeting today, or yesterday. Supposedly, he's been ill.
The foreigner looked like this.
She drew another picture, with amazing speed. I've got nothing on that one.
Don't you think it's strange?
Well, it is fishy. We can check it out together tomorrow. We'll take my car. That way, on the off chance something similar happens, we'll be able to follow them. Usami nodded and turned on the television.
How will the police react to Gonzo-san's death?
The news reported it as your everyday Yakuza warfare. Behind the scenes, the police have been investigating a criminal known as Maou for a while now. That's what Gonzo said, anyway.
We should probably tell the police what we know about it.
Nah, news has already reported that Maou is my brother, Samejima Kyohei. I'm sure the police have found that out by now. Detectives will probably come looking for me soon to ask some questions.
Maou once feared police intervention more than I expected him to.
Yeah, funny how things change. I heave a sigh and stare at Usami. There's something I still want to ask you.
You want to know why I'm chasing Maou?
Yeah, I figure I have a right to know now. I had an idea, though.
A classical music nerd as big as you probably knows how my mother died.
Yeah, it was a theater in Moscow, wasn't it? Terrorists bombed the place during the performance.
Their target was a Middle Eastern ambassador who had been invited to the concert. But my mother got caught in the crossfire.
Was that your first encounter with Maou?
Yeah. He asked me if I was the daughter of Usami. Well, it's a long story.
I'll ask some other time. By the way, what's that? I pointed to a violin case laying against the back of the sofa.
I wonder.
Did you change your mind about playing for me?
Maybe.
What do you mean, maybe? She reminded me of the old Usami a bit. I lay down on the sofa and jerk my chin at her. I'd like to interview you, Mishima-san.
What's with the grin?
I hear you were born in Germany. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, when someone says Germany, the first thing that comes to mind is automobiles. Am I right?
I guess we know the first thing that comes to your mind. Wait. Since when am I the one teasing you for stupid comments?
Feels weird, right? It's usually the other way around. If you don't like it, you could always give me a straight answer.
Alright.
Did you like chocolate as a kid?
Huh?
I mean, Japan has a good variety of chocolate, but Europe is its very birthplace.
Well, I recall throwing a few tantrums in front of candy shops. I used to say things like, I'm not moving from this spot until you buy me chocolate.
Sounds like a normal little girl. Did you watch flamenco performances often?
That's Spain. I went to Spain on a trip once, though. I remember seeing a woman dance on stage in a red dress. I think I was about 2 at the time. I wonder how I still remember that.
You got all the memory that Kyosuke didn't.
Yeah.
Did you like to go out and dance as a child?
No, I've always been a homebody.
So, did you play house then?
Yeah. My mother used to buy me dolls. The dolls over there are really realistic. Their facial features are uncanny.
Did your dad ever send you a doll from Japan? Like that one doll. You know that one that was all the rage? Kari-chan or something? My skills as an interviewer are somewhat lacking.
Yeah, he did. I lent it to a friend in Germany and never got it back.
They never gave it back?
Well, that's just how it goes over there. If you say you'll lend someone something, they'll just consider it theirs.
Yeah, I've heard that. Foreigners just take pens or paper without any bad intentions.
That's why I can be a little shameless sometimes.
Bull.
It made things pretty hard when I came to Japan.
The difference in customs did, you mean?
Yeah. Take school lunches, for instance. I was annoyed at having to eat the same thing everyone else ate.
Oh? And that wasn't because you were used to Japanese food?
Nah, I ate Japanese food in Germany too. And another thing, over here people are more open to giving others the food they don't want. They're more considerate.
Isn't that a good thing?
But there was this one time when I just went ahead and ate everyone's leftover pudding after they were finished eating. It's not like they're going to eat it anyway, right? But still, I got so many weird looks from that.
Yeah, I can picture that.
Over there, it's like you're your own person. Like, in extreme cases, you might have someone bring in cabbage for lunch, but he wouldn't stand out at all. Cabbage was fair game.
That sounds like BS, but we can roll with it. What kind of place did you live in?
I was surrounded by nature when I lived near Cologne. There was a farm nearby. I wouldn't exactly call it a rural countryside, but it still seemed like a wide open expanse, I guess. It seemed big for some reason.
I also hear you lived in Tomenbetsu City once. Is that correct?
Yeah, but it was a lot different from what it is now. 10 years ago, there was no Central Boulevard, remember?
Ah, so that's why you were a little lost when you first arrived last year. Central Boulevard practically popped up overnight to us residents, too. It went up quite quickly. Is it true that city development is something that the Europeans tend to take slowly?
Yeah, everything's laid back there. You don't hear stories about mom and pop delis becoming huge supermarkets like you do in Japan.
They have higher ceilings over there, too. Your violin must have had echoed quite a bit.
Actually, it sounds stupid, but it's true. When I came to Japan, it felt a lot louder because the sound was more condensed. It took a bit of getting used to.
We finally got to talking about the violin. Did you start playing the violin because of your mother's influence?
Yeah. I loved my mother's concerts as a little girl. The music was so beautiful.
But, of all things, the violin?
Yeah. Instruments are expensive and a lot of people aspire to play them. When I said I wanted to try it, my mother looked a little worried.
Kids usually don't think about consequences down the line.
I first picked up the violin just because it looked fun. Then when I played in front of my music teacher, he'd clap his hands and praise me.
Usami looked happy as she reminisced on days gone by.
Mom's so busy with work, she wasn't in much, so each time she came back, she said I had improved a lot. It made me so happy. I eventually grew to love practicing, just so I could be praised more.
I see.
I'd play from the moment I got home from school straight through the night. Eat, sleep, play violin. That was my daily life for about 6 months.
Oh? How were the recitals?
We all played the same song in a group. For some reason, though, I stood out. When we finished playing, people would come up to me and comment on how much I must love to play.
It sure sounds like she does, at least.
At some point, I thought that I'd like to let lots of people hear me play.
Her smile was no less than cherubic.
That was when my mother began to teach me personally.
I never knew this, Usami. The innocent girl who spoke with a sparkle in her eyes.
Mom was really strict when she got serious. No matter what I did, it wasn't good enough. I never knew how poor my technique was until I participated in a certain Japanese contest.
Oh?
It was terrifying. The audition hall was quiet and dark, and the judges were cold.
Are the concerts in the West more friendly?
Yeah, it's more like playing recital over there. Anyway, they weren't impressed.
Yeah, well, contests in Japan are probably concerned with the intonations, rhythmic accuracy, and other such technicalities more than overall interpretation.
They mentioned that my performance would have been well received in any other nation, but the judgment made me think twice about my style. I decided I'd go back to basics to correct my bad technique. I even relearned how to hold the instrument.
Did you ever go off to a music camp?
I did. Some of the kids I was with are now touring the world with their instruments. I was kind of nervous being surrounded by such talented prodigies. I didn't feel worthy.
I can't even imagine Usami's being nervous. Did you get stiff shoulders?
No, but my back started to hurt. And when I had my picture taken, I was told my left shoulder seemed a little elevated. I must have built up some muscle on it.
She shut her mouth as if remembering her normal personality.
Well, I don't have to deal with those kinds of problems anymore.
She forced a self-deprecating smile, but it couldn't hide her sadness. It wasn't fun to look at. You wanted to be a soloist, right?
Yeah. When playing in an orchestra, you have to be more thoughtful. I kept worrying that I'd screw up the ensembles, so I couldn't do it.
She must have been pretty timid as a kid. But you don't have to worry about that in front of me.
Huh?
I speak to her gently, and Usami's face returned to that of the young girl again. You want to play in front of a lot of people, right?
Oopsies.
Then, let me hear you.
Oopsies.
This place is soundproofed fairly well, and it had better be, for how expensive it is. Even if you screw up, only I can hear it. Usami's shoulders shook a little. She took a deep breath, then stared at her violin case. Haru. When I call her, she looks up at me.
All right. I'll do it for you.
She scurries to grab the case as she blushes. She opens the case gently, as one would open a jewelry box. Inside the solid case was a cloth sack. I could tell just from that how much care she put into her instrument. Then, from out of the sack, she pulled a beautiful, aging, glossy violin. Damn, that looks pretty expensive.
That sounds like something you'd say, but I would call it priceless.
It must be the violin her mother used.
Wait a sec.
She rummaged through a bag she had brought along with the case.
You don't have a tuner, do you?
Nah, I'm just a fan after all. I don't play.
I seem to have forgotten mine.
Hey now, you're not going to leave me blue-balled, are you? Though, since violins are made of wood, the change in temperature or humidity between her place and mine might have thrown the strings out of tune.
Are you sure?
Yeah, go for it. If it were the rainy season, though, I might be singing a different tune. When the air is exceptionally humid, the strings stretch easily, sending the pitch and timbre straight to hell.
I do tune it every day, I guess.
Oh, so you still practice daily?
Oh, no. I just keep the instrument in good shape. I don't actually play it.
So she's just attached to it?
As reluctant as I am. Alright, I'll do it.
She takes a black bar of what looks like soap in her hand. Is that pine resin?
You're well informed.
It's commonly called rosin, and she's going to apply it to the horsehair bow. She lightly presses her bow to the bar and glides along it, top to bottom.
I'm surprised I still remember.
Remember what?
Huh? Oh, I mean, it's not a good idea to put too much on, but if you put too little on, the sound weakens.
So, her body still remembers how much to apply.
Asai-san, do you have a dish sponge or something I could use?
Hmm?
I haven't played for a long time, so I don't have a shoulder rest.
Ah,
There are lots of people who don't use one, but I feel more relaxed with one under my clothes.
but will a dish sponge really do?
Yeah. I always practice with dish sponges.
Alright. Do you have a chin rest?
Yeah. Though I'm not wearing makeup or anything, so it wouldn't really matter if I didn't.
What the heck? What if you sweat on the violin?
Are you gonna make me play something that'll make me sweat?
Well, start off with some Bach, I guess.
I knew it. Oh well, I like Bach too.
Hey now, who do you think you're talking to, saying you like Bach? What do you know about Bach?
I was captivated by Bach's mathematical talent.
Oh ho! So you do know your stuff. He wrote a song that's the same whether you play it forward or backwards.
Right. Like a palindrome. What a mysterious guy.
Alright then. I've got it. Play Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring.
But I don't have the sheet music.
You can't just play it from memory? Was the rumor about Mishima Haruna being able to play any song after hearing it once just a rumor after all?
Where did you hear that nonsense? Well, if it's what you want, I guess I could try.
I'll let you play as half-assed as you want today.
Today? Will there be a next time?
Of course. You're my woman, aren't you? Embarrassed, Usami starts preparing to play. Oh man, I'm turning off the lights.
There you go, raising the bar again.
Darkness permeated my room. Ah, wait, I changed my mind. Play Air on the G string.
Your favorite song? You sure are spoiled, you know that?
Grumbling, Usami takes up the bow and puts the violin to her left shoulder. Usami's slender body stands in the moonlight. With hair down to her legs, she shuts her eyes as if going to sleep. She was different from the casual Usami. There was something mysterious about her. Do you need to warm up?
No. I'm fine.
She answered bluntly. She lightly grips the bow with her right hand and brings her left hand to the violin's neck. I noticed the calluses on Usami's fingertips when we made love. Her touch was rough and gritty. She must have practiced intensely all her life. Those same fingertips now slowly descend to the fingerboard and lightly press against the strings. I take a deep breath in anticipation and await her first note with sweaty palms. I'm confident, no, sure that the melody she'll play will be stunningly beautiful. At this very moonlit moment, I am completely enchanted by the girl known as Usami Haru. Her bow reaches for the G string, the string that plays the lowest sound.
I'm sorry.
At first, it was nothing but a whisper.
Don't you see him?
Then her well-formed eyebrow twitched.
Look. He's crawling out of the F hole and onto the G string.
Then a sound like fingernails on a blackboard resounded through the room.
Don't you see the devil there?
I couldn't believe my ears.
I'm sorry. As I said.
She starts shaking.
I can't do it.
What? What did Usami just say? The devil?
Yes. He always interferes every time. Every damn time. I'm sorry. I'm saying weird things.
I've heard of performers with prodigal talent who put themselves into a trance-like state as they play. Sometimes it allows them to suppress physical and emotional pain during a performance. And sometimes, when they've achieved a state of complete ecstasy, they begin to see fairies, or hear the devil's whispers.
Right, I know. There's nothing there. Sorry, you must be getting freaked out at my weirdness.
No, she has had some emotional trauma she hasn't worked through yet.
Yeah.
Because she, hasn't had anyone to help her with it.
Yeah.
It sounded like a joke coming from her, but Usami's body was shaking abnormally.
It just makes me remember.
She took a few shallow breaths.
It makes me remember when my mother's bow reached for the same G string. And that loud, low, damnable demon rumbling ran through the whole theater.
Usami!
That rumbling drowned out her mother's beautiful melody. The earth shook, and Haru's body was tossed into the air. The sound burst her sensitive eardrums as destruction rained down, raging across the theater. It was the blast of a bomb. The seating, the stage, the seating area, the balcony, the boxes. Everything vomited smoke into the air. Screams littered the atmosphere. Unintelligible screams of pain and terror. Haru saw someone lying on the ground on the other side of the theater. She saw other things which had lost all semblance of humanity. She saw fragments, pieces of human beings. Chunks of flesh decorated puddles of blood, right before her very eyes. Something that looked like a tree branch had landed near the ruins of a crumbled marble pillar. It was an arm, ripped out of its socket. A man sat on the ground near Haru, clinging to one of the chairs. He was holding his stomach, as if in desperate prayer. Something soft of a dull color splashed out onto the ground. It was his intestines. There was blood everywhere. Everything was burnt and blackened. All that remained were the dead and dying. The smoke had frozen the girl so tightly that she wasn't even able to close her eyes. The world around her had completely changed. Her mother's skillful performance had at some point become an ensemble of low-pitched groaning. There were screams, and at the same time, a barrage of automatic weapons fire. Shots fired mercilessly in front of her. A few streams of blood surged out like snakes. Only after seeing that was she finally able to clench her teeth in fear. Death was new. Some time after she had finally accepted her inevitable death, a voice called out to her, called out for her. Haru, Haru, it said, seeking the girl. She tried to squeeze out a reply, but couldn't. Her mother had been an expert at manipulating sound at will. Yet the only response Haru was able to offer her, a response that would turn out to be her final words to her mother, was a raspy wheezing that hardly qualified as speech.
Are you Usami's daughter?
A new voice called her, this time a calm one from above her. He was dressed head to toe in black. The balaclava he wore covered his face, but his eyes laughed boldly at her. The man's figure, distorted from the hot air, seemed akin to one of the devils straight out of hell.
Usami Haru, correct?
What answer the girl gave the devil, she does not remember, but she must have given him a name. The devil returned a scornful smile. Some Middle Eastern language was being shouted out. The devil replied in the same tongue. Blood at his feet splashed.
I am the Maou. Let's meet again, hero.
After that, something inside the girl broke. Like a violin missing a string, her heart stopped functioning normally. In exchange, she gained hatred. She gained hatred at the cost of her ability to play the violin.
Ellipses. Megalipses. Usami's breathing was becoming rough, and her face was getting so pale that I was able to notice it from the moonlight alone.
He killed her. Maou took my mother. No, he took the violin from me.
I know. Now calm down.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Just because I thought I might be able to play it. If you were there with me, if it was all for you, I thought I could.
Why is Usami, a passingly normal young woman, chasing the dangerous terrorist Maou? I finally understood the reason behind that reckless act.
But I couldn't. I'm so sorry.
She was merely wandering around grief-stricken, searching for salvation. I see. You did well to tell me.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I'm sorry. You were looking forward to it so much.
Don't worry about it. It was my fault. I reach out to hold Usami. Don't worry about it. I'll do something about it.
Something?
Her tone suddenly lost all emotion. Yeah, I'll catch Maou. That seemed the only way to save Usami.
Catch him?
Her eyes went wide. Despite all the experiences we shared, we were still different people. I didn't understand a single ounce of Usami's despair.
No. Kill him.
That night, I learned of the demon in Usami Haru's heart. The chains which were inherited from our parents have become our very own karma, binding us into an eternal winter. You'll be able to play again someday. No, I'll make her able to play. I'll do it with my own hands, not through unheard prayers to a useless god as I used to. As one single human, as one single man, I'll protect Haru. We had sex many times that night. We sought each other like animals, and I released my seed inside Haru. It was violent sex. Sex aimed at capturing the other's soul. The night wore on, and as exhaustion took us, we fell asleep in each other's arms. I've waited a long time for this. The day has come to execute my final plan. I can't help but look back at the 10 years I've spent in preparation for this. Inspired by my father, Samajima Toshikatsu, an employee of a trading company, I aspired to study overseas. 10 years ago, I was just a kid. I had no money or power to speak of. I attended the Imperial College of London, hoping to gain the qualifications necessary to work at my father's company. My younger brother, Kyosuke, was still young and unreliable. When I returned to Japan every now and then, he'd make me play video games with him. His amiable personality and overall sociability was just like father. I remember him following me around, taking pictures of me as I helped mother with her errands or chores. Thanks to father working himself to the brink, our family was never poor. Regardless, I refused any money they tried to give me to help pay for various expenses as I studied in Britain. I knew that mother, with her weak disposition, could have fallen ill at any moment. I also knew that father wanted to bring another life into the family. However, I did need the money. Thus, some friends and I decided to found a small import-export business in London to help pay the bills. Calling it an import-export business makes it sound impressive, but it was just peddling cheap junk. We sold t-shirts, pencils, Buddhist statues, and other such Japanese rubbish to shops in London. Japanese saran wrap and toiletries sold well for some reason, and there were significant amounts of orders for underwear emblazoned with kanji logos. Father would often package such novelties and send them to Britain for us. "You'll be a great trader someday," he told me. He always supported me from the bottom of his heart. I met Alan one day as I walked into a pub, trying to hawk an air freshener that promised extra effectiveness against the smell of alcohol. He looked to be in his mid-40s. He wore a houndstooth check flat cap, a cheap faux fur windbreaker, and worn, old slacks. Sipping a Guinness and lighting his pipe occasionally, he looked like your everyday working-class Brit. "All right, mate," he hollered as he waved me over with a smile. He bought something from me right off the bat. He said he loved Japan and would be a good customer. As we talked more, we started calling each other by our first names, and by the time he offered me a drink of sake, he already knew my background, specialties, and interests. Being raised in a peaceful country like Japan, I was hopelessly vulnerable. A young Japanese man was like clay in the hands of a Western recruiter like Alan. By the time he first said the word mercenary, I was drunk. "I'm a mercenary." My drunk self was more curious than cautious about that unfamiliar word. Supporting the business of war at its core was the lowest level of these so-called merchants of death, mercenary recruiters. Any system with the possibility of cooperation will eventually spawn a profit-based equivalent. And with the monstrous amounts of monies involved in war, there will always be monsters out there looking for a cut. And in any case, Alan himself was not working for some Arab big shot or some capitalist corporate giant, but a monster that happened to deal in smaller figures. He had the proper qualifications and was a formal member of a recruitment agency. However, mercenary recruiters are not permitted to act out in the open. That law exists for diplomatic reasons as a conformity to international law, and the connections to underground organizations cement it as an important rule to follow. Alan's talk captured the attention of his green listener. He tried to sweet-talk me into joining up as we drank Kurosawa and Yamato Damashi. And like a missionary for an evil cult, he waited patiently until his prey was no longer able to think. Still, I never said yes. Murder is evil. As if to say he already knew that, he laughed and replied, "But murder can sometimes save things that justice can't." I found that difficult to understand. It does stir a man's sense of adventure, but there's no reason to become something as mysterious as a mercenary. Warfare may be an unfortunate constant in this world of ours, but it has nothing to do with me. If you ever find yourself in need of power, call me anytime, Alan told me. After that day, a long time passed. My little sister was born and died. My father's silhouette, broken-hearted before little Kiyomi's portrait, still burns in my eyes. And soon after that same father was arrested under suspicion of murder. When I received the news from Mother, I abandoned studying for my upcoming Arabic midterm and returned to Japan. Tomenbetsu City's holding cells. I was turned away 3 times under the excuse that they were still investigating the case, but I was eventually allowed to visit Father. "I read your letter, Father." Father nodded from behind the acrylic plate. Above his droopy cheeks, his worn-out eyes told of his lack of sleep. "How is your heart?" Father vaguely shook his head. Not once in the letter did he whine, but he fainted a few times. The fainting spells were bouts of heart disease. He'd suffer from it the night he cried in front of Kiyomi's portrait as well. "Please, Father, don't be so overdramatic. The death penalty? Try to keep your spirits up." Father had killed Usami Yoshinori, his subordinate Kato, and 2 of Usami's other mahjong friends who were present. Is he going to be given the death penalty? There are plenty of reasons to be sympathetic towards him. Nevertheless, his crime was premeditated, and it couldn't be helped if they saw the method of killing as brutal. He was just possessed by his urge to kill at least Usami. The rest of them were just small-timers, riding off Usami's power. They could do nothing but mock Father. Then again, I personally think it's those kinds of vermin who deserve to die. When I spoke with a lawyer friend of Father's, he was unable to confidently determine whether or not Father had a chance at life. The decision wouldn't be made for 3 or 4 years, after all. I was incredibly worried. What truly disturbed me was that the world sympathized with Usami. As Father's letter detailed, Usami was a fraud and a chronic gambler. None of this was reported in any newspapers or television programs. Apparently, Usami had connections to politicians. Perhaps his famous wife, Mishima Kaoru, had something to do with that. Would these things affect Father's sentencing? I wondered. Don't worry. Just in case, I've been cooperating with anti-death penalty groups. But each time I attended their meetings and study sessions, I lost more hope. What I wanted to save wasn't this country's future, but my father, a man who might be sentenced to death. Kyohei. Father gently called my name. Thanks, Kyohei. Father's tears lent a certain air of fulfillment to his eyes. I mustered my courage and replied, Father, you really don't regret what you did, do you? Father bit his lip. I'm sorry. That sentence was certainly not aimed at Usami or the other three, but at our family. I imagined the scene of the inevitable trial. The prosecution shouting things like, the defendant showed no signs of regret. Indeed, Father would never submit to Usami's memory, nor should he have to. Kyohei, can a genius like you answer a question for your old man? He looked to be begging Buddha for salvation. Am I the demon everyone says I am? Indeed. Any reason and morality whispered coldly into my chest. He loved his family more than anything else. The smiles he brought to us were countless. I felt something burning inside me, and I cursed my ingrate reason and morality. No, Father, you were right. He'll always be, to me at least. That sentence, that determination, sealed my life's fate. Father, I'm returning to Britain. Rest assured, I'll be back. I don't know how many years it may take, but please, don't lose hope.